In this video, I'm going to be reacting to the strength and conditioning methods of Tommy Fury. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Boxing Science Reacts. We normally do reaction videos over the champions in boxing. Today we're going to be looking at Tommy Fury. I know Tommy Fury is in the influencer boxing scene at the minute, he's a pro boxer, but there's a lot of conversations around his training, how he's changed his training in recent times over the last 2 years. Tommy Fury is quite muscle bound, quite top heavy, but he's changed his training to be more like an athlete now. So let's take a look at some of his old methods, how he's transformed them, and why it's more suited towards an explosive boxing style. Okay, so Tommy Fury, we're doing some upper body lifts. He did a video with Men's Health where it's like how I built my body, and there's a lot of bicep curls and tricep extensions. But this video here, how strong is Tommy Fury, is really strong. Upper body wise, lifting 55 kilos on a dumbbell chest press. This is fantastic. I've never seen a boxer of any weight, even heavy weights, lift this amount. However, I would say that it is a little bit too heavy. I get to athletes around about 1 to 1.2 times the body mass on a dumbbell chest press. As soon as they hit that, I'm more working towards upper body speed, such as bench press throw or pressing with bands, looking for that speed and acceleration, and also tension towards the end range. You can see he is lifting 55 kilos, but the reps are quite slow. We're wanting to try and produce as much hand speed as possible, not wanting to try and get too strong upper body. So it's been recently working with Kyle at KD Performance. You can see that it's really transforming Tommy from this boxer that lifted heavy weights to a boxer now working more explosively, working towards the goals of the sport, to be able to be fast and explosive and punch hard. Tommy Fury is working on lower body strength and power by using box squats. Box squats is a very useful tool for boxing. The reason why I prefer box squats over full range squats is because boxers often have lower body limitations in terms of movement, mobility and stability. So getting towards that end range can be problematic, might start compensating with other muscle groups. Shear forces going through the spine, because they're getting into that deeper range, won't be able to lift as much weight. Box squat is a safer way to perform the back squat action, but also get more load on the bar. So he's lifting here about 120 kilos, which is a decent level of strength. He's lifting this with speed. Different alternatives you can do touch and go, you can do banded variations to make sure that you're accelerating all the way through. Another fantastic exercise for lower body explosiveness is a banded kettlebell swing. The kettlebell swing is a fantastic exercise for the whip of the hips, fire up through the hip extension, transferring that force from lower body through to the fist. Adding the bands adds an extra incentive to drive them hips all the way through, because basically the band is working against you, so it increases acceleration and hip extension forces, but also the band also drags that kettlebell back in at a faster rate, so then it can challenge that eccentric utilization of the lower body. Challenging this will be able to increase the effectiveness of the stretch shortening cycle, which is really important to generate force from the lower body that can then transfer into a more powerful punch. So it's fantastic to see Tommy using this here. Trap bar jumps, fantastic exercise to improve explosiveness of the lower body and rate of force development. He's doing this from blocks, which is really good because bottom range of a trap bar jump, you'll not be able to produce as much power due to the movement limitations. You can see here, Kyle's working on keeping his chest up, shoulder blades pinned back in that bottom position, and this is doing it from the block, so he's finding it hard to maintain that position anyway. If you're doing that through a deeper range of motion, will affect the safety of that exercise and also the amount of power and speed that you're able to produce. So trap bar jumps, we use it in a range of different ways at Boxing Science. We use it from the blocks. We also do trap bar counter movement jump, where we're really challenging that stretch shortening cycle of the lower body. The next exercise, we're working on core, obliques, really important. So Tommy Fury's got a really strong looking core, but he's probably done a lot of kind of sit-ups, doing like traditional core training and not much rotational strength training. So now looks like he's working on more obliques, working on that unilateral action, which will then transfer into rotational power. Doing the farmer walks are fantastic for grip strength as well. However, you might notice that Tommy is using a banded variation, creating a little bit of chaos, a little bit of proprioception work, which can increase that muscular activation of the obliques. Often, load and activation of the obliques can be affected by the grip strength of the athlete. So often when we go heavy, the athlete can't quite maintain that position just due to the grip strength. Taking that away and doing it a little bit lighter and doing it on the bands will help increase the muscular activation of the obliques. So it's a fantastic variation to use with your athletes to try and increase the oblique strength, activation, which will then transfer into rotational power. So you can really start seeing a theme here that trying to improve lower body explosiveness. We've got the box jumps. Now how Tom is performing this is looking to generate as much force through the calf complex as possible. So this is a fantastic variation to use because he's kind of jumping into it, double foot contact at the same time, generating that force from the foot, driving up through to a powerful hip extension, and he's getting quite a high jump there. He's jumping 100 centimeters there, which is pretty good, especially a guy of his size, because quite heavy, it's going to be harder to shift that weight as well. So for him to be able to jump 100 centimeters is a pretty good standard. With the run up, this is creating a little bit of momentum for Tommy to challenge, but also you can increase that challenge of being able to absorb that force and reproduce force through the foot complex by doing depth jumps. So starting from a box, maybe like 30, 40 centimeters, dropping down, quick contact with the floor, and then drive up onto the box. You can also challenge hip extension forces a little bit more by starting from a stationary position, dropping down into like a counter movement jump action instead of being reactive through the foot complex. So there's a few different variations that you can do, but box jumps are a fantastic exercise to improve lower body explosiveness for boxing. Landmine squat to press. This is another great exercise utilizing that squatting action, but in a safer way. The landmine arc allows you to get a little bit deeper into that squat position without them shear forces going through the spine. Adding a press on top of that allows two things: greater acceleration on the concentric phase, because it's got that intent to drive from the lower body to then press overhead. And also it's linking the body as well. So it's linking that kinetic chain sequencing, not just in a punching aspect, but in a more general global aspect. It's having to generate from the lower body through the core through to upper body press. So this is why landmine squat is really good exercise for boxers, and this is why we utilize it at Boxing Science. Different variations that you can do it on a Viking press rather than being quite close into the chest on the Olympic bar. And also you can do banded variations. Banded variations increases that force and tension throughout the lift, which will increase acceleration, rate of force development, and also that tension towards the end range of the lift, which can help increase effective mass and the snap of the punch. Looking at how he's transferring that upper body strength that he has into upper body hand speed. So he does a range of different exercises here. So the first exercise is a landmine split jerk. This is another exercise that helps kinetic chain sequencing, as it's a lower body jump into a split position, but also it's a pressing action at the same time. And this is fantastic exercise for upper body speed. And also it does the med ball chest pass and throw. So he's doing it from a supine position. You can see that his S&C coach here is doing it from a great height. So this overloads that eccentric portion of the lift. So sometimes you can start off from concentric position, so starting from dead start and pressing up, but often you're missing out on that eccentric utilization. You think about that recoil from throwing a punch and then coming back and then punching again through counter punching. That's really important element to keep within your upper body speed exercises. It's great to see his S&C coach starting from a great height. It also creates a little bit of intent for Tommy to really drive through that med ball chest pass. If he doesn't accelerate enough, it's not getting up to his coach, he's not being able to catch it, and the med ball's going to land on him. Cueing him to really put real speed, force and intent into his med ball throws. He also does med ball punch throws, which is more kinetic chain sequencing, transferring the force from foot through to the fist, and it's more in a punching specific action. Another thing that is added to the med ball punch throw is that it's doing a lead hook after it. So this lead hook is fantastic to cue them fast and powerful combinations, but you can see that it's looking to try and get that full range into that med ball punch throw. When boxers often do med ball punch throws, they generate most of the force through this action here. So they often neglect that full range of motion going through towards that end range. Adding that left hook in there is cueing the boxer to stay in that nice solid boxing stance, having that hand up towards the chin, and then transferring that through to left hook, if they were overreaching, if they were going short with that right hand, that left hook is going to be compromised. So it's encouraging Tommy Fury to be driving all the way through that action, and then also he has that bit of like kind of stretch shortening cycle of the core obliques to then drive through into left hook. This is why we use it so often at Boxing Science. It's going to be doing some pulling work. I mentioned that is really strong in that pressing action. When you're strong in the pressing action, there's often like some imbalances between anterior and posterior. So it's really important for him to work on the posterior shoulders to make sure that this is good for force transmission, but also reducing that likelihood of injury. So he's doing some face pulls here with the cable on a rope. What's really good is that it's pausing at that end range. So it's getting that tension towards the end. Often when you do like kind of face pull exercises, you can often like neglect that strong position, but this is where you're getting your increased activation through the posterior shoulder muscles and the rotator cuff muscles when you're holding within that end range. So it's good to see him having isometric actions, not only on the face pulls, but also on the TRX row as well. It's really switching on and engaging all his upper back muscles. So this is a fantastic exercise used here. Dumbbell seated single arm shoulder press, but he's doing this in a Z press position, but doing single arm. Doing Z presses, really fantastic exercise for shoulder strength and shoulder health because it's really challenging that postural stability, core control whilst doing a pressing action. Often, and you'll likely see this in one of his videos when he's doing dumbbell shoulder press with Eddie Hall, is looking to kind of lean back and compensate using his lower back. This is very often seen with boxers doing heavy pressing overhead because they're quite limited in shoulder strength, but also in overhead range. So they look to compensate using the lower back. Doing it in a Z press position, so where you're having the legs flat on the floor, body in an upright position, this takes all that away and really challenging that core to maintain postural stability and also reducing the amount of load that you're able to lift on the shoulders. So it's less kind of impact forces and strain going through that shoulder joint, but you're increasing that muscular activation, that rate of force development under a lesser load. So we often use Z press at Boxing Science, whether that's with a bar, whether it's with dumbbells, but it's fantastic to see Tommy Fury doing it here, single arm, because there's a lot of imbalances between your lead hand and your back hand. So this is a fantastic exercise to use to increase shoulder strength, core, postural stability, but also it's fantastic for shoulder health as well. So that's the end of this episode of the Boxing Science Reacts series. It's been great to look at Tommy Fury's training, how he's transferring them good foundations of being strong, being quite muscular, but then transferring that into being more functional and more explosive. So big shout out to his S&C coach Kyle at kd.performance_. Go and give him a follow on Instagram. And if you enjoyed this episode, go and check out our previous episodes of Boxing Science Reacts, where I react to the S&C methods used by the champions. So Canelo, Crawford, Golovkin, Gervonta Davis, Bivol, Beterbiev. Got a range of different fighters, range of different methods that we break down, the science behind it, the benefits of it, and how you can adapt it and integrate it into your program. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so don't miss out on any future content. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next episode of Boxing Science Reacts.